listen, expect the Spanish Inquisition. It's head-first only television. It's been one of those weeks. I'm in a much better place today than I have been for about a week. De French Doge, good evening. Hello and hello again. I was hanging out with De French Doge on his stream at lunchtime while he played Insanity Level on Mass Effect Andromeda, and I was just going, I have no idea what's going on, but it does look very pretty. So, yeah, I've had issues, shall we say, this week. I don't know if you can see that. I thought that I'd buy myself some Tiger Balm, patent Chinese remedy for aches and pains. Imagine Deep Heat or whatever those other muscle relaxant, muscle easer lotions are, turned up to 11. And it says, do not cover after applying. Now, I thought do not cover just meant, well, you don't wrap it in a bandage or anything. But apparently, do not cover means don't put anything other than several kilometres of hard vacuum over anything on your anatomy that you've applied Tiger Balm to. Because, dear me, did I get a reaction. Yellow Area says, Chinese deep frying. Wasn't it just? It's actually taken the best part of a week to go down. But yeah, Chinese patent remedies might treat them with a little bit more respect in future. Let's just leave it at that. Yes, trials and tribulations. I'm back in the studio. I have memory. I have 64 gigabytes of memory in this machine now. And to be honest, running Ableton just goes, oh, more memory. That's nice. And all right, it loads a bit faster, and there are some performance improvements that I've seen. But it's the machine downstairs that got the memory that used to be in this, where I'm seeing amazing differences. The video machine that I use for editing and then rendering out all of these streams before I upload them to YouTube, that I use for general work and consultancy and a bunch of other stuff, had 16 gigs of RAM in it, and it now has 32. And good grief, I think the render times for the streams that I'm putting out using Vegas have probably not just halved, but they're down to about a third of what they were. So yeah, great improvement in performance downstairs. Up here, some, but not so much. The French Doge, Array of Emotion says, I don't really have a schedule or stream specific things as of now, Mass Effect Andromeda, but next time, who knows? So now the beast is doing well, head first only. Yes, indeed. Yanu Arias says, nice, now you can start rendering to 4K. Well, it's funny you should say that. If I switch to tripod cam, the main webcam that I have is that little beast. And as you can see, it's a 4K camera. The only issue I have is that it's a 4K camera and it shoots on a little micro SD card. And 120 gigs of micro SD card is good for just over 3 minutes of 4K video. Bandwidth, holy cow. Yeah, not going there. Gonna stick with the 720p. And hopefully that means that people watching this with slower streams can get a better idea of what's going on. And my bitrate to the Twitch servers doesn't need to be up at the 4.5K, 5K megabits a second stuff. And yeah, I'm up in the bedroom dealing with the router on Wi-Fi, and yes, that has certainly taken a hit with the Xbox release last Thursday. PlayStation 5 launched today. It had sold out in the UK in Argos and Currys and all the electronics stores by 10 minutes past 10 this morning. So yeah, it's a beast of a thing looking at it. Absolutely enormous, monolithic. And yeah, if I was working, I'd probably have ordered one, but I'll stick with my PS3. Playing Borderlands, Borderlands 2, Borderlands the pre-sequel, a whole bunch of, Crisis and Warhammer 40k and all that. That does me. The pretty stuff is pretty and it's nice. And I've got a few streaming games on the PC. I have a Steam account that I barely use. So I'll just stick with music. Yanawera says, oh, you can record with Shadowplay or something. What's that NVIDIA thing? Shouldn't have that big of a performance cost. It's just the data space that it just eats storage space. I have a directory on this machine that stores all my old Twitch stream recordings. And I was looking at that today, and it's like getting on for 1/4 of a terabyte. And I was going, don't really need those if they're all on YouTube. Delete. So I've got 1/4 of a terabyte more space than I had yesterday. Hurrah! So Yanawera says, I record my games GIFs with that so I can get the full 4K quality. 4K is lovely. And to that end, I have to say that I'm going to give you a heads up for tonight's show, because these lovely 4K monitors that I've got are high dynamic range monitors. And I enabled Windows 10's high dynamic range functionality this week because I discovered that it wasn't turned on. OBS does not like high dynamic range in Windows 10. And it does strange things to display capture, as I noticed when I was trying out all the different permutations of screens that I have here, because showing off, look, there's a big black screen. Oh, there it is. So yeah, OBS takes its own sweet time in realizing that I'd rather like to show you screen one. But there it is. It does eventually get there. I've had an interesting few days, to put it mildly. I sat down to watch a YouTube video on Monday night about how the Ace of Spades Motorhead single, which is 40 years old this month, was recorded. And lo and behold, the video used a photograph of mine. In fact, it was a photograph from my Flickr album, and it was that photograph. So that's Fast Eddie Clarke, Vic Mail, and Mr. Ian Fraser Kilmister at Jack Jackson's recording studios in Rickmansworth in November 1981 during the recording of Iron Fist and the Hordes from Hell. The recording sessions were eventually aborted, and Vic Mail left the project, shall we say. The album ended up being produced by Fast Eddie because he'd just done a fairly decent job of producing the album by Tank, who were a heavy metal band from the Croydon area. And so that photograph cropped up, and then in pretty short order that photograph cropped up as well, and I was like, WTF, what's going on here? So I commented on the aforementioned video, and they were actually fairly cool about it, but the general tone of the initial response was, well, have you looked on the internet, because everybody's ripping you off? And it's like, really? So I did a Google search for Vic Mail and go to the images for that search, and lo and behold, there's a page on Facebook using my photograph. There's a dude on Pinterest using my photo. I love the fact that underneath it says images may be subject to copyright. And somebody had even cropped Fast Eddie and Lemmy out of it and chucked the photograph in the Encyclopedia Metallum archives. So I was not best pleased. Shall we just put it like that? And the guy who'd posted the video said, you know, you really should issue takedown notices for all of these. And it's like, yeah, me and my team of highly trained crack lawyers who are really expensive. Yeah, that's really going to happen. So yeah, I'm being ripped off left, right, and centre, and it's not just those photos. There are various other photos of mine that crop up on the internet, and yeah, I'm more than a little peeved about it, but I'm a lot more chilled about it than I was on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday-ish, because I was fuming, because I was still coming down from the absolute fiasco of Sunday night stream, thanks to Amazon letting me down with my memory supply. Riako Music says, take down those stupid O's. And indeed. The French Dove says, it's sad because Flickr usually shows the license. Well, it does indeed. And I have made money from my photos on Flickr because more professional outfits actually email and say, we're putting together a show about X and we'd really like to use your photograph. Could we please? And they usually agree a fairly decent fee. And it resulted in me crossing off one of the items on my bucket list that I never thought I'd cross off, which is to see my name on the closing credits of a movie, because I get a credit for archive photography along with the wonderful Brian Talbot, creator of Luther Arkwright, Grandville, and many other fantastic comics, for archive photography on the 2000 AD documentary. How cool is that? Yano says, people on the internet are experts at ripping people off. Imagine spending 200 hours on a painting that everybody is then ripping off, not just on Wikipedia, but selling T-shirts with the picture on it. Oh, I have people apparently online selling T-shirts that I designed for the Motorhead fan club in the early 1980s as worn by Lemmy. But do I see any money from that? No, of course not. January says, everybody just taking what they want. And that internet culture is why the music business is now absolutely dead on its feet, because people have this mindset that stuff that appears on the internet is there for free and that they don't need to compensate whoever produced it or any of the creators, and they are just left to get screwed over and starve. And when one is not working, one really does appreciate the occasional fee for the use of one's intellectual property. But I'm over it. I am trying to move on, and in doing so, I've been making a lot of music this week. Array of Emotion says, there is a hilarious incident with Cattle Decapitation. Great name for a band. There is a hilarious incident with Cattle Decapitation's latest cover album. Some dude ripped it off, didn't even crop out their original logo and just put his own text on it. When the band noticed, they took screenshots of it and sold it as a t-shirt. But yeah, it's sad. The French Doe says, the situation reminds me of Arch Enemy. They used a photographer's pic to promote merch or shows, and the photographer kindly told Angela Gossow, the manager, to take down the photographs. They didn't for a while, but the backlash was eventually big enough that they decided to remove the picture from their promo material. Array of Emotion says, nice. Yes, says Januarius. On the other hand, you can try to create enough outrage that people get too scared. Internet, stealing and outrage. Yeah, and breathe. So, yeah, I was a little peeved, shall we say, and I indulged in a certain amount of retail therapy this week, because that and making chocolate marshmallow Rice Krispie treats. That apparently is the secret to maintaining an even keel, because I feel so much better. And Mel on her stream yesterday and just on Messenger and general chatting, we were talking about the fact that I'd made this enormous tray of Rice Krispie treats, which I'm slowly working my way, well, not that slowly working my way through. It's definitely working. But retail therapy, also good. Today, the postie delivered a book. It's Brian Eno's 1996 diary with swollen appendices. So the pink stuff is the appendices, and they're Brian's thoughts on everything from ambient music and culture to the clock of the long now, celebrities and aid giving, and all sorts of other stuff. And I've wanted a copy of this book since it was published, and I missed getting a copy, and it went out of print. It went out of print to such a degree that a copy of this, up until Faber and Faber, who have just reissued it in a gloriously plush, it's even got the little ribbons, look, gloriously plush 25th anniversary edition. Copies of the original were going on Amazon 3-4 years ago for 400 quid, which is outrageous. So I put it on my Goodreads wish list, and left it there and thought, I'm never going to read it, until last year when the man himself on his Twitter feed, Dark Shark, Brian Eno News on Twitter, said, if you're looking for a copy of A Year with Swollen Appendices, here's the PDF. I was like, ha ha! So shared the link on Facebook, and dozens of my friends messaged me and went, thank you. I have been looking for that for so long. But now it's available in a beautiful hardback book. So that's what I'm going to be reading over the weekend, because Brian is a huge influence on me, someone that I look up to tremendously. And yes, I ended up having a car back in the early noughts whose registration number ended in Echo November Oscar, and my girlfriend at the time started calling him Brian because that was the name of the car, Eno. So Array of Emotion says, that sounds like one of those weird Amazon bot fueled bidding wars. No, it wasn't, mate. Those tend to escalate on a daily basis, and you get books going for like 10,000. But I had a look on several of the non-Amazon affiliated secondhand bookstore websites, and they were all like 350, 400, 450 quid for a copy of the book, which is insane. Oh, Wobby says, I downloaded that David Byrne one you recommended the other week. That is a great companion piece to Brian Eno's book. And of course, Eno Byrne collaborations are quite the thing. And if you've not got Everything That Happens Will Happen Today, or the absolute timeless classic My Life in the Bush of Ghosts, which was sampling stuff before sampling was even technologically possible, then you're missing out. Bush of Ghosts is an absolutely milestone of an album. One of my favourites, always will be. I've been back hard at work doing a lot of work on the Geometry of Sleep album. So it's the album about phases of sleep. I've now got all 12 tracks in an initial and in some cases final form. So the end's in sight. I'm going to have the album in its final form up on Bandcamp by the end of November, which last week I was kind of not really expecting to be able to do. But yeah, I've taken it up a level. Ryaka Music says, "You're so productive." I've struggled. I really have struggled over the last week, and was listening to you go. I don't know about you. You get to the stuff you think, yeah, this is good, and then you do a bit more, and you think, oh, that needs changing, and then you start going down the rabbit hole, and eventually you go, this is awful. And for quite a few of the tracks, I ended up binning the original version, maybe keeping one of the tracks on the Ableton set, but just junking the rest. I think I've got them all but one or two now that I'll go, yeah, that'll do. That's good. But Drifting Off, which was track number 3 on the album, has been a bit of a bear, and I really, really went back to it, and it was like, yeah, this is not working for me. What's not working for me? Why don't I like this? And I've done quite a bit to it. And now we wait for OBS to notice that there we go, lovely. So here we go. This is Drifting Off version 4. And you'll notice there are a whole bunch of new tracks on here. And that leads me to my other bit of retail therapy this week. Yes, Tom Spademan and John Cooper-Ryder, if you're watching this, you bastards. You talked me into it. I bought Abbey Road ONE. I bought the new Spitfire audio plugin, which is recorded at the big studio, Studio One at Abbey Road. There are some 90 odd instruments in it. It's glorious, the amount of stuff in it. As you can see, there are slightly more articulations than there are in the BBC Symphony Orchestra package. So you get long, you get staccatissimo, you get tenuto, marcato, and you get these glorious swells for most of the different string sections, most of the different brass sections, and the orchestra as a whole. So you get groups of instruments rather than, you get ensembles rather than just violins 1, violins 2, cello, basses, flutes, oboes, everything. You get long woodwinds, short woodwinds, low woodwinds, high woodwinds. Ryaka Music says, Chris, I told you that you would outgrow the BBC Discover package, and you were not wrong. Yanuaris says, glorious swells. They are indeed. Oh boy, I have some stuff to play you. But let me just talk you through the symphony orchestra. So if I record enable this track and we just start with the orchestra. So you get the whole orchestra. And if I just play something, it's glorious. my chair is dying, so the hydraulic ram keeps on going, which it just did then. Ryako Music says, OMG, I'm going to want this. Januarius says, Ryako Music says, I need a new computer first. It's not subtle. There's a lot to it. It took 18 and a half hours to get the download on this machine. Normally my internet connection is about 50 to 60 megabits a second. Cus Muggins here did it while the internet and his dog is trying to download system updates for Xbox new version, and obviously tonight it'll be PlayStation 5 as well. Januarius says, wait, so how large is it? It is 60 gigabytes plus of all sorts of glorious instruments. And I was getting between 6 and 9 megabits a second to this machine over the download time. And normally, I mean, I should have been able to download it in a couple of hours. 60 gigabytes is reasonable, says Januarius. De Freshdo says, damn, it's nearly the size of Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my God, is it really? Some of their libraries are even bigger than this, and they do offer you the option to buy it on a memory stick for about 70 quid, which seems kind of expensive for a 60 odd gig memory stick, but it is glorious. So I mean, it's worth it just for the orchestra, but that's the longs. These are going to be in every piece of television music that you hear over the next couple of years. Swells. So those are the short swells. Medium swells, anyone? And long swells. I mean, lush does not come into it. So that's the full orchestra. Then it splits into strings, brass, woodwinds, and percussion. And they're all glorious. The strings, high and low, the low strings. Oh. Tremolo. Lovely pizzicato. Bobby says, long swells, only convincing one to me. And how you played it was like Britain for 4C interludes. Oh, that is nice pizzicato. They really are. They really are. Yeah, the controls as well. So you get multiple microphone choices, microphone placement choices, which you can't. There we go. Gets there in the end. So you've got a whole bunch of different microphone choices. You've also got not just the reverb that the BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover package had, but also tightness. In other words, how on the money they are in terms of when the note starts and when it finishes. vibrato, and also release when they stop playing. So it smears it out, which is really, really, it's a great effect. But I've really been enjoying adjusting the tightness on this because I was really finding it's like, oh, it behaves differently to the BBC Symphony Orchestra, and it's either behind or slightly ahead. I was scratching my head trying to figure out why, because I'd actually got the MIDI notes in the right places, and it was like, oh, slidey, slidey, slidey. Oh, gosh, that sounds good. So on this track, I haven't done an awful lot. I'll play you another couple of tracks, which I've done a lot more with Abbey Road ONE. But this one, it's scene setting, and it's kind of bit of nice embellishment on the general form, rather than pulling it apart and starting again. So check this out. This is version 4 of Drifting Off. So yeah, that was Drifting Off version 4. So as we've been talking about on the chat and the various production choices, yeah, I think that one's done. I think that one's done. Yanumera says, very lovely, thank you. It's funny just framing it and getting that introductory little bit of high strings really does something. DeFresto says, even in version 4, the piano steals the show, in my opinion. Yeah, that is this bad boy behind me. I think we may have found out what my my problem is. I think I've got a fader in need of some service hole. That's what the problem is. Yeah, the piano is Ableton's reverse piano, but it's being driven by this bad boy. So I've now got to unrecord enable the MIDI information, otherwise it will just play all the MIDI notes. But this is the Korg. I love that thing so much. I've had that device now for over 10 years and I love it to bits. So yes, that is Drifting Off version 4. Now, the thing that I was stressing about was opening the album has got to be a big message. It's got to say, this is what you're in for. It's got to say, this is interesting, and it's got to capture your attention and listening. Because what I do, I have a little MP3 player. After I've mixed everything with the monitors on here, always go, just put everything on my MP3 player because I want to hear what it's like when it's been crushed. And I listen to it on headphones so I can hear a lot more of the wider stereo detail on headphones. So I always mix and then go away, listen on a different sort of context, make notes, make mental notes, or even write stuff down to find out what's different, what's working, what's not. And the opening track, it was nice and it was cool. And you remember the Labs plugin that I was using, which was Arctic Swells. That was the one. It wasn't enough. So I did a little bit of fiddling with another thing that the Korg is really good at. I'll do a demo, so bear with me a second. The Korg has a piano looper in it, and I've used it doing all my modified version of the patch for a number of ambient pieces for 5090 and Form over the years, and it's quite nice. You play a motif in and then it loops it, and you can build stuff and it gently fades away like this. Which is moderately interesting and useful. Thing is, I discovered you can really seriously mess with its head by twiddling the tempo knob like this. And now it's really, really, really strange, but so do you remember, is it the first track on Haven? Everything has changed and nothing has changed. The Bowie, there is a glitchy rhythm track at the beginning of that track, on the first track on Heathen, first track or second track on Heathen, one of the early tracks. And that has always stayed with me. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a nice glitchy piano motif. And I'm just going to fade that in and see if that makes a difference. But it sort of weirdly changed the context of it. And this is what it sounds like now. So I reckon that'll do me as as an opener. I'm rather pleased with that one as it stands now. And it's funny, it's just that additional little context just underneath everything. And there's another motif which might be a little bit loud. I'm going to listen to this again on headphones tonight. But when the song resumes, there is another loop. And of course, when you fiddle with the tempo knob, the point is you get the tempo at the same tempo as the track. So and yet in the mix you can't hear this at all. I'm really pushing this, I think, with the amount of processing and everything else that's going on, and streaming at the same time. But it's ticking over at what, 40% CPU usage at the moment, which is quite high. So Wobby has been talking in the chat about the labs instruments, and so Arctic Swells is what I've used here. And as Wobby quite rightly observes, an awful lot of the labs instruments do not play well with others when you try using them with other synths, because the tuning can be a bit iffy on them. I know it's A440 Hertz, but that does not always apply to the sound sources that Spitfire have used to create the labs instruments. And if you haven't gone to Spitfire Audio's site and downloaded their Spitfire Audio app and then availed yourself of the dozens of free labs instruments which are available for you to use, they are gorgeous. They might be pitchy, but they're gorgeous. And there's a fix for the problem with pitchiness, and it's really this HDR bug in OBS is going to drive me up the wall. I might have to turn HDR off for Sunday stream, because I can see the Spitfire Audio Labs plugin window on my screen here, but the OBS capture of it ain't cutting it. It's not there, which is, come on. So I'm actually wiggling the window and not a sausage. So forgive me, but I can't really show you. But there is a black band at the top of the Labs plugin window, and there is a tune dial on there, and you can tune the Labs instruments so that they do fit with other synth plugins. And Wobby says, I was looking everywhere for that, and there it was in black and white. Yes, or in my case, or in your case, not there in black and white. How very strange this bug is. So yes, high dynamic range in Windows 10 really, really confuses the hell out of OBS, doesn't it? All right, so I'm going to close that window because I've got more stuff to play for you. There was one thing I promised you last week, and I'm going to create a new set for this bit. So if you remember, on Sunday I was saying that the pianobook.co.uk community is a bunch of people who create sampled instruments and then make them available for VST users or Contact users. If you're lucky enough to have the full version of Contact, a lot of them are made available as Contact instruments. But I was talking on Sunday's show about the differences in how Sforzando, which is made by Plogue Industries, and Decent Sampler react when you've ostensibly loaded them with different format versions of the same instrument. So I said I'd report back on which I preferred and which I like. So what I'm going to do here is, and you're still, oh my God, this is really, really, if I switch back to me and then go back to screen one, which has now died completely, this is really, really not very good, is it? I have, you can't see it, but I have a new set. And what I'm going to do, and I'll give you me to look at, such as I am. This is very, very bizarre. I'm going to load both Decent Sampler, which I downloaded. Oh, look! Finally! There we go. I'm going to download. There it is. Okay, so we got Decent Sampler, which will eventually load. And what you then do is click on where it says File. And I have a bunch, so many files, a whole bunch of Sforzando sample files. And I downloaded all the different versions of Autumn Piano from pianobooks.co.uk. And you see there is a file format that says DS preset, because that's a Decent Sampler preset. So it's now thinking about all the different WAV files that it's loading in. And there we go, loading complete. So I now have, and this is totally free, you can download Decent Sampler for free. You can download Autumn Piano from the pianobook.co.uk site, totally free. And here's the sounds that you get. So that kind of, it's nice and responsive. There's no lag, and I think the lag is just it's not the signal getting from the Korg M3 into my machine. It's just the amount of processing that is going on. So as a comparison, let's load the same pack in Sforzando. So gonna drop Sforzando into the next track over. I'm gonna load the Sforzando version of Autumn Piano, and again it's downloading lots and lots and lots and lots of WAV files, and there we go. So the interface isn't quite as pretty. It's a bit Linuxy, really, isn't it? But what I found is that the Sforzando player version, responsivity, latency is about the same, but I was getting more nuances with the different layers of, because the M3's both aftertouch and velocity sensitive. And if I play the same sort of stuff, see if you hear the difference. I think for ease of use and for getting a decent result, then I would go with Decent Sampler over Sforzando. It's not going to play, is it? Yellowberry says, what the hell, OBS? Wobby says, oh, OBS. Okay, that's put the kibosh on that. Anyway, so, all right, next stream, I'll return to Decent Sampler, and I'll give you a demo when I've not got HDR enabled on the display. Yeah, it's very, very odd. All right, well, we'll soldier on. Whole bunch of software updates this week. Live is now at version 10.1.30. A whole bunch of bug fixes by the looks of it, and I'm guessing the main reason that's driven the release of a new point release this close to Live 11 dropping, which will probably be, I reckon, February next year, is compatibility issues with Big Sur, the new Mac OS release, because most of the release notes seem to be organized on that thing and general sort of user interfacey stuff. So yeah, Live is now at 10.1.30. There is a new version of Isotope's vinyl plugin, and you can download it from Isotope or by downloading the Isotope app, which is also upgraded this week. It's free, and what it does is it basically adds surface noise and crackles and distortion of a vinyl kind to an audio track. So it's just an effects plugin that you drop in on a track, and I've used it a few times, and to be honest, it just annoys me because it's like I've got a pristine digital recording environment which should not crackle apart from me crackly faders. So why would I want to add surface noise and distortion and crackle to the signal? Yanuera says, yes, Vinyl is incredible. And Ryako has been very busy sorting out her application for a mentoring scheme and has just posted, yes, application done. Good. Now you get to chill out and just watch Discovery and generally slob about and recover because you've been busy this week. So yeah, Wobby123 says, good luck, Ryako Music, and I would totally support that. You got this, Mel. So good luck indeed. Right, shall we try screen one again? No, it's just not playing, is it? Okay, I'm going to continue and I'm going to load up a new set and we'll see if this one prompts it into doing anything. And oh look, so it's like when it redraws the application interface, it really does not play well. Ryako Music says, what's up with OBS today? It's because I have now turned on high dynamic range rendering in Windows 10 for the displays in here, which makes them look very, very pretty indeed, because the color gamut's much bigger, and goodness me, do I notice it even with my vision. It's like, wow. But OBS really doesn't like high dynamic range, all the extra data, because the color gamut and everything else is going to be strange. So it's going to have, I'm guessing that there is some part of OBS's addressing of color space in video that HDR breaks rather significantly. Okay, Chimel, I've played you before, but it wasn't finished. And this is the track. I don't know if you remember, I was saying I wanted this to be... No, it's not Tumult. I'm talking rubbish. This is Noctambulant. So this is... All right, Noctambulance is sleepwalking, but this is my sort of inception kick. So this is the phase of sleep where you're dreaming you're a super secret agent and everything goes really, really cinematic and John Barry-ish, if I could, raise myself up to the level of his feet, which I can't. But so I wanted this to be sort of completely grandiose, very, very dramatic throughout the golden rule of ambience, which is I'm not going to use percussion because there is loads of percussion on this. And yeah, I've added a few bits, and yes, there's lots of Abbey Road ONE in this, and there are those swells that I was talking about. And Ryako Music says, be right back, going down to watch this on TV. Good. I think you'll enjoy this one. This is the cinematic track on the album. So I don't think it'll take Mel very long to get downstairs and get settled in front of the TV. So enjoy this. This is version 2 and considerably expanded and buffed up Noctambulant. So enjoy. I am so pleased with that, how that's turned out. Really like that one, and seeing the comments on the chat, it looks like you guys loved it as well. Yeah, I had to have the slow tremolo guitar motif. Absolute call out to the governor himself, John Barry, and the his version of like the Monty Norman Bond theme as well, and the cymbal at the end. Yeah, and that was a thing that had been bugging me because it didn't work, and I couldn't get it to work. And then eventually, I realised that what I'd done was that the cymbal, and there it is. It's the Spitfire 29 quid job, or a cinematic percussion plugin. It's really, really good. And there is just one. I think it's is it a tam? Yeah, it's a tam rather than a cymbal, and it wasn't working. I couldn't bug it, and then I figured out that I'd waited until the one of the final bar to make it hit where it needed to hit, because this is in 7/8, of course. It needed to hit on the 7 of the previous bar, and just moving it back that one whole note fixed it. Whole note? No, it's not. It's an eighth note, isn't it? So moved it back 1/8 note, and suddenly it's like, oh, thank goodness for that, it works. But the tams and gongs on this particular plugin are absolutely superb. There are so many good ones. If I enable the right track, here we go. Just so good. King Gong says, you're not wrong, sir. You're not wrong. So, yeah, although it's only used for 2 notes, the tams and gongs really make that track. Although the rest of the percussion is all that cinematic percussion plugin. So glorious stuff. So yeah, that was me getting my James Bond on, and Yanuera says, yeah, I'd never love another cymbal plugin. I normally use GPO4, but that's not very versatile. It's pretty good. There are so many different ones, and yeah, I should really restrain my spending because I'm spending my retirement lump sum at the moment, which I wasn't expecting to get, and it's one of the reasons why I'm sitting in the studio now rather than still smacking my head under the bed, because it was like, look, damn it, I'm going to spend some money and get a setup that is going to allow me to make the sort of music that I've got in my head. And making a track like that totally justifies to me what I've done over the last 6 months in terms of getting the desk, getting rid of the bed, moving everything around here, completely reorganizing the room. And oh yeah, that's another thing you haven't seen. You haven't seen the latest fruits of my handiwork behind me. I have run out of wall. Not run out of guitars. I've still got guitars in a rack down there, but I've run out of wall. And the difference in here is tremendous. Haven't got room, but it means that I can now actually find space on the floor to put the guitar synth on. So I've got another track to play you, which features me on guitar synth. So Yanuera says, wait, which cymbal plugin was that? Okay, it's Spitfire Audio. It's one of their originals line. which are €29 each. Whoops, I just didn't mean to do that. They're €29 each. They're worth every penny. The cinematic percussion is the one that I've used here. And you get cymbals, tams and gongs, earthquake hits, metal hits, percussion hits high, percussion hits low, and swells. Spitfire Audio are really all about the swells these days, aren't they? Very, very good. Very, very good plugin. And yeah, I went from saying, no, I'm not going to do any, this is an ambient album, I'm not going to use any percussion, and then started playing with cinematic percussion, and it was like, on the other hand, I think maybe I ought to. So, yeah, highly recommend it. So talk amongst yourselves for a minute, and I will load up yet another new track. Well, this is the new track, okay? This is the final piece of the puzzle for me. So I've now got all 12 tracks for the album, and the tweaking and fiddling and messing about continues apace, because I only started working on this on Monday after I got the system up and running, more or less as a proof of concept to see that if the new memory upgrade was working, and it is. And yeah, this track, and let's see if, oh look, so I'm not quite, oh it kicked in remarkably quickly that time. So this track has 28 tracks on it. There are loads of guitars. There is lots of Abbey Road ONE. There's also quite a lot of BBC Symphony Orchestra Discover on it. And De French Doji, you will like this, because it features me good old trusty cinematic piano and Ableton's reverse grand piano recorded at the same time. And I'd actually got a recurring motif, and then did a lot of Arturia CZ101 bassline, because you're gonna use the CZ101 from Arturia for a bassline, and again you're gonna double it with the pendulate free chaotic oscillating double pendulum synthesizer that you can get from Eventide. But when I'd finished adding all the orchestral arrangements to the recurring piano motif, it was like, that piano motif doesn't work with the arrangements I've used. Oh! So I got rid of most of the piano and then did a load of guitar, and then thought, actually, I think there's too much guitar. So I took lots of the guitar out and then put new bits of piano in, and why don't I just shut up and play the track? So this is called Restored. This is the end of sleep, where you're just about to wake up refreshed, ready for the day ahead, having had a beautiful night's sleep in comfort and warmth and all that warm, good, fuzzy stuff. And it's called Restored. So that was restored. So you get the idea of the point where the sun comes up and everybody and all the curtains fly open and you're ready to face the world. Or as Januarius was saying, I mistook my bed for a grave. Because that's what, I mean, come on. Whoever these days wakes up after a night's sleep, refreshed, ready to go, willing, able, and not suffering from aches and pains, rheumatism, sciatica, rashes, or any of a number of other embarrassing problems that one acquires as one gets older, then whatever they're taking, I want some, please. Because, and Ryaka Music says, and birds come through your window and help you get dressed and do all the housework and cook your breakfast. Yes, exactly. But, so that's restored. And there are a couple of other tracks which I'll play you next time when I finished tweaking them. Is it Cinderella or is it Snow White? I can never remember which one it is. I've a feeling it's Snow White. January says, what? Here, birds just steal my clothes. We are likely to be experiencing that problem in the UK a lot more than we have done for the last 400 years. Why, I hear you asking? Well, because back in, I think it's 12th Night, one of the characters cautions, another character says, when the kite's about, look to your lesser linen. Because in Shakespeare's time, London was home to a thriving colony of red kites, which are enormous birds. They have a 2-metre wingspan. They are bloody intimidating when one lands on the lawn in front of you with a dead magpie when you're walking back from lunch to your office, which happened to me a couple of years ago. Red kites are notorious kleptomaniacs and would nick people's underwear off washing lines in Shakespearean London. So Ryaka Music says, imagine a bird flying off with your underwear. Well, Shakespeare didn't have to imagine it. It was part of everyday life. And there was just one colony of red kites surviving in the UK in the 1960s at RSPB Reserve in Wales called Inisia. And the RSPB and the British Trust for Ornithology, I think it was, decided that they would try and reintroduce the red kite as a species back into the wider United Kingdom. And they imported a bunch of red kites from Spain in I think it was the late 80s, the early 90s. And sadly, none of the Spanish red kites that they imported liked the British climate. So they all either died or buggered back off to warmer climes. So the RSPB resorted to Plan B, which was going and getting another bunch of red kites from Norway and transplanting them into the UK, and they took. And numbers of red kites in the UK in the last 15 years have skyrocketed. And I think there used to be, I think, something like 15 breeding pairs in the UK. There's now over 1,000, and they are glorious birds. And I've even seen one very occasionally lurking around the village, and the first time I saw it, it was like, that's a red kite. They're unmistakable birds in flight, very large, very, very sleek, very, very sharply angled wings, and an enormous tail with a very, very deep V notch in it that they use like a rudder, like an aeroplane has. And you see them in most parts of southern England these days. Glorious. So how did we get on to birds stealing underwear? Stream Pilot says, never bring a double bass to a viola fight. Yeah, slight discussion in the chat about the fact that a lot of the orchestral strings are fighting the two synth basses. So the synth basses in question, my trusty go-to White Window, which I can see is the Arturia CZ101 emulation, but you can't, which is, there it is. So glorious synthesizer emulation. If I just solo this track. January says the V collection is on sale at the moment. Yeah, there are a number of sales on at the moment, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I thought that was rather nice, but in my humble opinion, says Stream Pilots, the lowest bass notes should be just up an octave. Well, I took a different approach. I added pendulate. To really fatten things up, and that particular combination is what I've used for most of the rest of the album. The problem with this, I think, at the moment, I'll show you pendulate if you're not familiar with pendulate. Pendulate, you can go to the Eventide site and download the monophonic version for free. You just give them your email address and you can download it on the spot, and it is very, very interesting. There's some lovely sounds on it, and it's totally free. The problem I've got, I think, is that it's fighting the cellos. So yeah, as Yano says, the synth bass needs to be side chained through the cello. It's got good transients. It has indeed, and I just love the pendulate stuff. So yeah, it's not finished. It's 85-90% there, and yeah, January has commented earlier about the guitar being a bit Gilmore-ish. The initial guitar, I recorded one solo and listened to it and went, no, it's not working. So I decided to channel me inner Holdsworth, and I'm using my very metal guitar, this one. So again, this is the 1990s Ibanez RG770. Got the old Floyd Rose tremolo system, some really, really shouty pickups, almost flat neck, and its intonation is pretty good at the moment. So the initial tone that I'm a huge, obsessive fan of the late great jazz fusion guitarist Alan Holdsworth. I might not be able to play like him. I am not physically capable of playing like him because he had an extraordinary reach on the fingerboard. I can show you his reach. Holdsworth had, well, he could reach about 13 frets on the fingerboard. He had a quite extraordinary dexterity and sadly passed away a few years ago. Really never saw the fame and fortune that he deserved. Ryako Music says, did he have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? I don't know what that is. No, he's just was an extraordinary artist. He had a very, very unique ear, and his tone. Well, if I solo the Ibanez and play you just that solo, you'll hear what I was kind of going for. So that's me Alan Holdsworth tribute on the album. But Januaris was saying, "Oh, that sounds a bit Gilmore-ish," and the other solo on this is a lot closer to Gilmore's tone, and that's using my G&L S500, which is the Strat Mark II that Leo Fender designed after he left Fender, and we've had this conversation before. So this is the other solo. With a nice bit of pick noise at the end, which I haven't edited out yet, but which will. Januaris says, the first was like Oldfield. This is more Fendery. Yeah, I used to, and yeah, Oldfield's name has cropped up in the chat more than once. And yeah, Mike has been an influence on me since I first heard Tubular Bells back in... When did it come out? 1973. And I've got a little acoustic guitar that my cousin brought back from Spain shortly afterwards that I ended up appropriating and would just obsessively play along to Tubular Bells and then Hergestridge and then Omadorn on an acoustic nylon string guitar. And a lot of people have said a lot of my playing reminds them of Mike Oldfield, and it's in my fingers. It's just how I grew up hearing on a guitar. Januaris says, I've probably gotten some sort of circular influence from Oldfield because Tim Faction kept telling me every other of my songs sounded like Oldfield and I'd never heard him. Oh my goodness me. Yeah, no, I love Mike's music. He's a huge influence on me, probably in terms of tone. It's wanting to sound like Mike is more achievable than wanting to sound like Alan. Let's just put it like that. And I think the third solo on this track is probably me being a bit more Oldfieldy. I don't know, see what you think. This is the third solo. So that's really messy. De Fresh Doge, Good to see you, man, and good to hang out with you on your stream earlier. I will attempt to catch up and watch you playing Mass Effect again, because that was good fun. So have a good one, mate. Don't forget, says De Frestos, wear a damn mask if you go outside. Indeed, absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of rough edges on that, as you can hear on the soloed tracks. But one of the advantages of having guitars with 22 or even 24 fret necks is that the high end sounds a lot more controllable than it does on the humble 21 fret Strat. And one reason why I love the S500 is that extra fret makes a difference. And the Fly here just has a ridiculous number of frets. So the Fly has a 24 fret neck, which means you can get high E's with ease. Ha ha ha! Did you see what I did there? Yes. Ryako Music says, your guitar sounds so good. Shut up. Yanuera says, have you ever played fretless guitar? Are you mad? There are two people in this world who are allowed to play fretless guitar. The first is the wonderful Adrian Bellew, and if you've not heard the track Big Electric Cat from Lone Rhinoceros, then check it out online, because that is Adrian playing fretless guitar, and it is off the freaking chain. And the other person who is allowed to play fretless guitar and does, and is so good at it that it makes me sick, is the glorious Guthrie Govan. And there is a track on the Aristocrats album which is entirely composed of instrumental music that gained the album a parental advisory sticker, because its name, well, the first word of the title is blues, but the second word is not. And Guthrie plays the blues on an electric fretless guitar with an aluminium neck, no less. It's a Vigia fretless guitar. Do check it out, because it just doesn't obey the laws of physics. That's all. That's all I can say. It's like Spider-Man watching Captain America's shield in the Avengers movies and going, that's just not right. And he's absolutely right. But Guthrie is glory. And I was amazed. And again, going back to the stuff that we're doing here, is very cinematic and everything like this. If you've not seen Hans Zimmer live in Prague, where he performs music from Superman and Dark Knight. Is it Superman? Certainly Dark Knight, Inception, and a whole bunch of other movie masterpieces. And the house band that Hans Zimmer has got, not only does he have Johnny Marr on stage for the Inception stuff, but Guthrie is the guitarist in Hans Zimmer's band. As you do. Do check it out. Hans Zimmer live in Prague. Brilliant stuff. Januarius says, Januarius allowed to play. What a British thing to say. It's true, though. Stream Pilot says, lap steel, pedal steel is fretless guitar. No. It's a very, very, very different sound. And it is, I mean, I've got a fretless bass behind me there. Can we see this from shelf cam? Not really. It's that one there is an Ibanez Blazer bass, which is completely fret free, and in fact there aren't even marker inlays on the neck, because that's how much of a masochist I was when I had that made fretless. But yeah. The fact that there aren't frets on the guitar changes the harmonics of the strings in really, really weird ways. And if you drop a distortion pedal on a fretless guitar, you get the weirdest harmonics coming through, and certainly the overtones are off the chain. And Big Electric Cat, the Adrian Bellew track that has very, very fuzzed fretless guitar on it. When I bought the album, because huge Adrian Bellew fan, have been since, well, certainly since he sang and played guitar and did everything else on the King Crimson album Discipline, which is one of my top 3 albums that are the greatest albums of all time in popular music. When I bought Lone Rhino, I listened to it and it was like, I have no idea how he's doing what he is doing on this track. It's, you know, there is no combination of effects, guitar effects at the time, and this is like early 80s. There is no combination of guitar effects at the time that I am aware of that can make a guitar sound like that. And it turned out it was because it was the guitar itself that was weird, because it had no frets. So that, yeah, do check it out. It's really, really, really worth seeing. Stream Pilot says, love Discipline. Reactor Music. Me too, Stream Pilots. Great band. And Bruford, of course. Bruford, Fripp, Tony Levin, and Adrian Bellew. I mean, you could not wish for a better lineup than that. In the 80s, they were unparalleled. One of the reasons why I'm obsessed with the GR300 guitar synthesizer tone. In fact, I'm trying to think where I put it, but I have been recreating the Roland GR300 guitar synth tone, because I just happen to have down here the GR55 is a much, much more powerful beast than the old GR300. So the GR300 was a blue box that both Adrian Bellew and Robert Fripp used abundantly on the recording of Discipline, but it had a very, very distinctive patch on it, and you may recognise this sort of tone. So it's basically like a farting bee. And the thing is, you hit the control pedal on the GR55 and it goes up an octave. Which can get a little bit irritating. Ryako Music says, bees fart? I'm sure they do. They certainly poo, because my car gets covered in it during the summer. So that sound, I justified buying a GR55 purely on the basis that it could make that noise. Yanuera says, why do we need to justify our purchases? Less explaining, more acquiring. I think I need to tone down the acquiring at the moment, because Abbey Road ONE this week was like a bit of a shock to my credit card bill, to put it mildly. But yeah, if you're gonna get Abbey Road ONE, and believe me, it's worth it, then do so before the 1st of December, because on the 1st of December, and this is why I justified buying it this month rather than a few months down the line, price goes up 100 quid on the 1st of December. So at the moment it's 299 quid and worth every damn penny. It is glorious, and I have, even in the 3 days since I picked up a copy of it, I have been absolutely loving what it does. Yano Arias says, "Oh, I just purchased a synth." Go on then, mate. What did you get? Ryako Music says, "How stupidly expensive was Abbey Road ONE?" It actually, for what it is, it's very reasonably priced. It's at the moment it's 299 quid. And Januaris cannot remember what synthesizer he's just bought. Is this hardware synth, mate, or software synth? Because I'm all about the hardware synths. The previous track, the bass was both the JX3P at the top and the Juno 106 at the moment, but that wasn't enough. So we ended up with the Abbey Road ONE low brass. And goodness me, that puts in some torque at the low end, I'll tell you that. So yes, Yano Arias talked about sales. Arturia are having a sale at the moment. Lots of really good bargains to be picked up on the Arturia site at the moment. If you are a Native Instruments fanboy like yours truly, you may also want to wander over to the Native Instruments site, because they are having a sale where much of their non-high-end stuff is 50% off at the moment, and that includes all the tone preset expansion packs for Massive, all the expansion packs for, is it Ozark? I can never remember the name of it, but loads and loads and loads of good stuff. Stream Pilot says, Arturia makes great stuff. I have a Beat Step Pro and a Key Step, and I'm drooling over the Polybrute, saving me pennies for that. Oh God, yeah. I know a guy who literally has a shed full of Arturia stuff. Check out Martin Greenwood's stuff on YouTube. Lovely guy, and does a lot of sequence-based, very Tangerine Dreamy type performances, all from the bottom of his garden, and he does a fine job of it. Arturia's stuff is great. I'm very much old school. Haven't bought a new software. Well, the GR55 is the most recent synthesizer I've bought. The Korg M3's 11, 12 years old now, and still earning its keep. Love the thing. Ryako Music says, OMG, gonna have to check out the Massive stuff. Absolutely. And a lot of their other sort of boutique instruments, if you haven't got Complete, then you can pick them up individually at some bargain prices this month. So yeah, so Isotope we've already covered, and Vinyl plugin is now free again, so go over to Isotope and grab a copy of that. Native Instruments 50% off, and Arturia having a sale as well. Also, Waves are having a big sale at the moment. So you buy one plugin. I think it's you buy one plugin, you get 20% off. You buy two plugins, you get 30% off, and you buy three plugins, you get 40% off. And so if you're jonesing for some decent plugins for your DAW, we're over a week until Black Friday ostensibly happens for reals, i.e. Thanksgiving. And if you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitch in the States, then have a glorious holiday week. But please stay safe, please wear a mask, and please take care of each other in these crazy times. But yeah, if you're shopping, this time of year is when an awful lot of bargains are to be had. January says, we don't have Thanksgiving in Finland, just, yes, which is kind of what we have in the UK as well. It's not a holiday over here. We just grimly stare at the rain falling outside and think of warmer days. So, yeah, I think, given that I've been rambling on for over 2 hours, that I'm going to call it a night for tonight. I have more music. I will remember which track it was that I've actually done some GR300 FARTB noises on it, and I'll share that with you, if not on Sunday, for the Sunday Is It Form Yet? And if you're not particularly aware of Form, February album writing month. It takes place, strangely enough, for the duration of the month of February. So at the moment, there are 74 days until February album writing month gets underway. Yeah, if you're not familiar, I mean, most of the people on the stream are friends of mine who take part in February album writing month every year. You basically have 28 days to write 14 songs, which they reckon is an album's worth. All right, these days, because of mechanical royalty rights stop at 10 tracks on an album. So you put more than 10 tracks on an album, you don't get mechanical royalties for tracks 11, 12, 13 or 14. So it's driving the track count on albums down, which hadn't occurred to me until I read David Byrne's wonderful book, which Wobby has just bought herself a copy of, called How Music Works. Highly recommended. And Stream Pilots, you weren't here earlier. Get yourself a copy of A Year with Swollen Appendices, the new Faber and Faber 25th anniversary edition of Brian Eno's diary from 1996. Is a thing of beauty and is fascinating. And Brian Eno has a brain the size of a planet. So, February album writing month. Sweet. I'm up for that. Good to hear it, man. This stream has been responsible for talking quite a few people into taking part in February album writing month. It is a lovely community. The idea is you record, create, even if it's just writing lyrics, 14 songs in 28 days. You submit them to the site, and other members of the community give you feedback and suggestions and comments. And Twitch Patches says, does each broadcast have a theme? Yeah, Form, February album writing month. So yeah, I mean, my streams on Thursday night, which this is kind of just me waffling in the studio about the music I've made this week, because that's kind of what I did. The Sunday night show are a countdown to February album writing month, and it's all about helping people to prepare for the ordeal, the challenge, the experience of writing an entire album's worth of material in just 28 days. And it is possible. It's possible. You will be helped by a glorious community of other people who are working towards the same goal. I've made some great friends as a result of taking part in February album writing month. Before I started doing February album writing month, I'd write 3-4 songs in a decade. Since I started working on February album writing month 11 years ago, I think I'm currently up at around about 800 songs written, recorded, demoed, and in some cases released as albums. Yano Arias says it is possible to write 14 songs in one day. Yano Arias, on one occasion, started Form on like day one with a 24-minute long prog rock epic, which I still have on MP3 somewhere, Yuha. So I loved that track. Ryako Music says, the self-flagellation. Yeah, it's it's a crazy thing to do, but it's huge fun. There's a British comedian called Mitch Benn who every year for Comic Relief writes an album in 24 hours and does it streamed live on Tinternet. And more power to him. They're better songs than I managed to write, but Mitch Benn does that professionally. That's kind of his thing. So do check Mitch Benn's stream out as well, or find him on YouTube and Twitter and Patreon and various other platforms. Yanawara says, "Oh, thanks. I love that one too." Yeah, as a musician, whatever standard you're working at, if you're just starting out, if you're a professional, and there are professional musicians who take part in February Album Writing Month, and I have commercial albums by people and then they crop up on Twitter and it's like, hang on, you recorded an album with Steve Morse, the guitarist from Deep Purple. What are you doing on February Album Writing Month? But everybody gets the benefit. And yeah, I can't enthuse enough about how much fun February Album Writing Month is. So join me on Sunday nights when I will be talking at even more length than I do on these Thursday night show about ways in which you can up your game, or particular techniques, tools, tips, and everything else. And I'm thinking, guys, I'll probably start redoing the presentations, the guides to things like compression and equalization and everything else. Oh yes, Yanu Arias has just reminded me. We had last February a new user cropped up who claimed to be Nick Cage. Now, it turned out it was actually one of our very fun guys, a real joker and a very, very good songwriter called Klaus, who had just done it for a laugh. The thing is, the real Nick Cage got to hear about it. And the real Nick Cage is a musician. And at the end of February Album Writing Month, the real Nick Cage showed up with some of his songs. So I'm kind of wondering whether he's going to take part in 2021. I really hope so, because it's the most insane thing that I can think of that could happen to the platform. But Stream Pilot says, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's mad. But I am convinced that the other guy who showed up after Klaus admitted that no, it was him and it wasn't actually Nick Cage. The other guy, the piece of music that he submitted was actually a Nick Cage piece of music. Twitch Patchy says, I got an email for this. You online now, but only 30 minutes ago. Sunday comes after, under this, or is it another sign? No, it's all the same thing. If just follow me on Twitch or subscribe to my YouTube channel and you will see these shows as they take place. So 19:30 Greenwich Mean Time on Thursdays, which is 14:30 Eastern if you're in the Eastern United States, or 11:30 Pacific time. And the shows on Sunday night are at 2100 Greenwich Mean Time. So that's 2200, 10 p.m. European time, or 5 p.m. Eastern, or what's that? 2 p.m. Pacific. So do come and join us. Come and hang out. Join in the chat. We get diverted to the point where, to reference a Disney Pixar movie called Up, whenever diversions get too out of hand, I even have a squirrel caption to identify the fact that we're really, really going off track at the moment. So, yeah, that's kind of it. I'm going to call it a night for tonight. I will be back. So remember, 2100 Greenwich Mean Time on Sunday. We'll talk about February album writing month at great length. We'll start talking about preparing for February album writing month, how you can get your chops in order, ready to really show up Nick Cage on how good your songwriting chops are, and possibly other celebs as well. Who knows? Who knows who could show up for February album writing month next year? We'll see. I'm going to call it a night. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing between now and Wednesday, between now and Sunday evening, have a good time, but wear a damn mask. It's not just about keeping you safe, it's about keeping people that you interact with safe. Yanuaris says, thanks for a great stream, Chris. My pleasure. Thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out. Thanks for swinging by. Thanks for swinging by and staying, which is really, really appreciated. So until Sunday, whatever you're doing, stay safe, stay well, and above all else, stay sane, and I'll see you on Sunday.